It was interesting. I had never heard of a farming ministry, but I kind of wanted Mari off somewhere learning about farming, and I wanted her to come back to the island. So I was just poking around doing research, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And farming ministries have as their mission to provide food for those in need, and also to provide skills and housing and food for people who are recovering from addiction or have recently been released from prison. This sounds like a great thing to me. I was really happy to discover this. And I'm taking this to the workshops, and people kept referring to it as a cult. And I kept saying, no, it's a farming ministry. And then at one point I thought, oh, I'm going to go with it. Because I wanted this business of her sort of stepping over those red flags. And I thought, what if it's both? What if it starts out as a farming ministry and then takes on this cult-like aspect?
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast, where we get to meet great authors. And I've had so many great authors on the show, and they write for many different reasons. And Kate writes for a specific reason. She's got something she's very passionate about. I also share an equal passion for this subject, and something that we all need to be aware of. She is not only an author, but she's making change for our world, which I'm excited about. We're going to get talking about that. If you love butterflies, we're going to chat a little bit about that, right? And Kate's here. Kate, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Kate, tell everybody where you are. Where do you live?
I'm in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is right outside Boston.
There you go. Awesome. Been there your whole life, or is that relatively new for you?
I grew up actually south of Boston and then moved out to Salt Lake City in the late 70s and lived there for about 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Coming back home then. I like that. Before we get into your author journey, Kate, something big is happening tomorrow at the time of recording. And I'd love to start off here as kind of the foundation of our conversation together, because it bleeds into your book and what you're doing there as an author and everything you're touching. But can we talk about Be the Butterfly? It's on your website. We'll have a link in the show notes for everybody. It launches tomorrow, again, as the time of recording. Can you tell us, what is Be the Butterfly?
Be the Butterfly is a campaign that invites all readers, and in fact, anyone who comes in contact with my book or with my social media, to do one small thing to help mitigate climate change. So it references the butterfly effect, the idea that one flap of a butterfly's wing can have huge repercussions in a complex system. It came up when my publisher and I were talking about kind of a theme for my tour. And I was originally thinking, no, authors don't do themes. That's the rock stars that do that. And then I just had this realization that was already in my book. There is one character that is challenging another character to be the butterfly, to take an action that's going to have an effect. And my publisher was hugely supportive, and she suggested that I come up with 12 nonprofits that people could support if they chose to. And I thought about it. I thought, it's actually not up to me. So I reached out to 12 other climate writers and asked them to suggest a nonprofit that was conservation or climate related. And I am promoting those. They're all listed in the back of my book, and at all my events, I am promoting those organizations. It will also all be on my social media beginning tomorrow.
Wow. Well, this is amazing. Okay. I love butterflies. I like the symbolism around this and all that as well. When you were writing the book, did you write the book with this endeavor in mind, or was this as a result of the book?
Absolutely not. And in fact, when I first started to write the book, I didn't intend to write climate fiction. And honestly, I didn't even intend to write a novel, even though I've been a novelist my whole life. I was just writing some character sketches and vignettes that all take place on an island off the coast of Maine. But at the same time, I was really concerned about what was going on with the climate. And what that looked like for me was to wander around saying, why isn't anybody doing something? And then I realized, oh, I could be doing more. And I do the standard things. I recycle, I food compost, I use my cloth bags. But I thought really the thing that I could be doing that I'm not doing is using my skills as a novelist to write about that, to write about how all of us are affected by and can make a difference in what's happening with the climate.
And the impact that we have on the climate, our responsibility to take care of this planet, all of these things are key, important things for you as well.
Absolutely. And I think really the recognition that we are just one piece of the entire web of life. And my way of, because I tend to speak metaphorically, you pull on enough threads in that web, it's going to fall apart. And I think we're pulling on a lot of threads right now.
Hence the butterfly wing flapping and having an impact beyond what the butterfly would even anticipate having an impact on, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We cannot just wait around for elected officials to do something.
Right.
Or big companies to do something. All of us can be doing something right now. And I think if all of us are doing something right now, we can have an effect.
When did your passion for discussing climate change and understanding that, what's happening in the planet, when did that start for you as a person yourself?
It's in some ways, it's hard to winkle apart my lifelong love of the outdoors with my real decision to step up and start talking about it, because I write fiction and I was really concerned people would ask me questions about the science or ask me what is the solution. And I think my real commitment to speaking about it began with this Be the Butterfly campaign. And when I started being in communication with other writers like Barbara Kingsolver and Bill McKibben, who are out there every minute of every day, really fighting to make a difference. And I thought, I can be with those people too. I want to be with those people.
What is hard for you when you meet somebody who doesn't understand your passion for climate and protecting our planet? And for them, it's just not at the top of their list, right? How do you respond to people when that's just, they're like, yeah, okay, I get it, but I'm not really into that?
I have a great deal of empathy for that. We all lead very busy lives. And I think it's also a very difficult topic to confront. And I think human beings are sort of wired to deny things that are uncomfortable for them to really think about. And so when somebody really can't talk about it, I absolutely understand. It's not actually, I would love to be really thinking about going out to dinner with my friends. And it doesn't have to be a huge and scary topic. Anyone can do one thing today and one thing tomorrow. And so I really try to get people to look at it from that perspective.
Okay. For practical terms, we talked about some of the common things that many of us will do, recycle, and food waste, and those are all really important. What other things have you adopted in your own life that you're learning as a part of being a part of this movement and talking about more? Anything different that you've applied to your own life and how you're showing up for the climate?
Well, for one thing, I'm becoming somebody who talks about it. I was not this person. Yes, our whole backyard has been replanted. We don't have lawn. It's all native plants back there in an attempt to really keep that ecosystem healthy. I write for a Substack. I'm constantly out talking to farmers and fishermen about what they're seeing with their hands on our food supply and trying to communicate that to as many people as possible. But I think really the biggest change for me has been really observing my own habits, because I keep having this image of somebody saying to me, what makes you so special? Well, we do have a geothermal system for our house. So that's actually kind of a step forward for many people. I was dragged kicking and screaming. This was my husband's idea. He planned all this out. And it's not something everyone can do. But when I observe what else I could do differently, I notice things like, of course, I use a glass water bottle, but I seem to, as I've aged, started using a lot more prepared foods, and they all come in single-use plastic containers.
Right.
So that's the one I'm trying to get on top of now.
And see, I think that's a misconception I think many people might have, Kate, is the idea that if you are totally in love with saving the planet, that you have figured it all out and you're living the perfect example, right? And you've got it all done it. You know exactly what you're doing, and you never, ever do anything that might harm the planet. It's a constant learning process on how we can change our daily life and think better and do better. And we're all on a journey, right? We're not at the finish line looking at everyone saying, you should be better. We're all on this journey together.
I remember somebody mentioning to me, this was, I don't know, probably a decade ago, that they turned the water off while they were brushing their teeth.
Yeah.
I had never done that. And I thought, wow, that's actually weird. Like, could I get used to doing that? Well, I'm used to doing that now. From living in Utah, where there's water shortages, things like you fill a container with water and you soak all your dishes in there. You don't just keep washing your dishes under running water, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
One of my author butterflies has a book out that's really for people to just understand what kinds of things they might do in their daily life. And one thing she suggested was cleaning storm drains, and started doing that. It's really satisfying to just get all that crud out so that the water can go into the storm drains.
It's being aware. It's having your radar up, looking for opportunities, right? Because when I'm growing up, when I was a kid, there was no garbage limits at the curb. You could take as many bags as you want. There was no recycling, single use everything. Glass, bottles, everything was just use it once, throw it away. And that was just the way it was. Nobody knew any better. So we're seeing progress. There's a long way to go, but we're seeing some progress. What makes you happy around climate change and people understanding our role in this world? What's exciting you as you see things get better?
I've been working on an article recently on food composting. And I'm very excited about that. So many more people are aware of what the value of food composting is and are actually doing it. And there are more and more companies that are starting up that can go around and collect your food waste for you and compost it and bring you back all this great soil enhancement. That's kind of on the easy to understand level. When I start trying to delve into some of the science solutions, I'm stunned. And it gives me a great deal of hope to hear all these really smart people who are out there trying solutions. One of my butterfly nonprofits is Third Act. And Bill McKibben, who founded Third Act, right now it's got a huge promotion on talking about the value of solar energy and how solar energy is now less expensive than using fossil fuels, and really getting out there and educating people on the value of that way of providing energy gives me a huge amount of hope.
Okay. All right. We're going to get into the book. I think the one thing I do want to honor, Kate, is the authors that are listening. You mentioned at the beginning that you weren't really on the path of becoming a writer and an author in this particular format, and I'm glad that you are, because now you have this platform you can share and we can have this conversation. But for the authors that are listening, maybe they're wrestling with the idea of, should I write? Can I do this? Who would care what I have to say in a book form? Any words of encouragement if you could partner up beside a new author and encourage them on their journey?
I think the most important thing is to just stick with it and believe in yourself. It is a lonely process. You have to work it out on your own. And it's an incredibly rewarding process. there are very few people along that path who are going to pat you on the back and tell you to stick with it. You kind of have to do that for yourself. I will say this book took me 10 years to write, so sometimes you got to really hang in with it.
For the readers then, what is your love letter to a reader? What can they expect from your book, Kate?
Oh, I hope what they have is an absorbing story in which the characters really stick with them. I tried very hard. The book is set on an island off the coast of Maine, and I tried to come up with descriptions that would really make people feel that they were on the island. So it's a matter of knowing what it smells like on any given day, what sorts of sounds you're hearing, what you might feel with your hands. And in point of fact, there are sections in the book that are from the omniscient or all-knowing point of view that people refer to as being from the island's point of view. And I think that's accurate, and I really wanted to give readers that sense.
Okay. Well, I like the setting. Let's talk about these islands in space. Tell me more about, this actual location, and why did it become the subject of your book?
Within the context of the book, it's a fictional island. It's actually based on the island of North Haven, which is mid-coast Maine. And my father first went to this island, we figure it was in the late 1920s, early 1930s. And it just had a huge impact on him when he was a young man. And he decided that if he ever had children, he wanted to bring us there. So he first brought us there probably in the late 1960s. And it was an incredibly different experience for me, even though it's really not that far away from my home. But it was total freedom, because it's not like you were going to get lost. You were always going to be on the island.
Right.
And it was so naturally beautiful. And it was also, we came from the suburbs of Boston, and there are people who live on that island all year round who are making their living from the sea. And that opportunity to just really interact with people who came from such a completely different background was very valuable to me. People write books about Maine and about the islands in Maine, and I didn't feel it wasn't quite done right for my purposes, because it didn't have that sense of honoring the island itself. And so I think that's part of why I really undertook just writing those vignettes and character sketches. Again, I did not intend to write a novel. I just wanted to spend time in my imagination in a place that I love.
Okay. So the island is one of the key characters in the book, then?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's other characters. It seems like a tourist type location that people would come and then leave. And then some people live there. Kind of give us a kind of the lay of the island, lay of the land, lay of the island. Tell us a little bit who we're going to experience on this island.
This is, and this speaks both to readers and to writers. The book actually has 12 different points of view, which for the writers out there, this is not a wise decision. And it was a very complex structure for me to try to put together. I've referred to it as playing 3D chess in the dark. For readers who tend to be a little intimidated by the idea of all those different points of view, I worked very hard at a very minute level to try and make the transitions seamless. When you have that many points of view, you have a lot of different stories going on within the major story. The primary story, which is the story of what's going to happen to a piece of land on the island, and the conflict over it has to do with the fact that the people who live year-round on the island and who really need to make their living from the sea are noticing that the lobster population is dropping. And that's a big piece of their income. And they need to figure out a way forward. This is all accurate. The Gulf of Maine is warming faster than almost any other body of water on the planet. Lobster need to be within a certain temperature range in order to survive. So the lobster are all heading out to colder water. The story is primarily told from the point of view of Mari McGavin, who was born and raised on the island and has been gone now for 10 years. She got her college degree on the mainland and then went to South Carolina for a graduate degree in sustainable agriculture. And she ended up dropping out of school and joining a farm that she knew was called a farming ministry, and she knew it was called God's Bounty. But Mari, like many people in Maine, had not been raised with a lot of knowledge of religion, so she didn't really think this was going to be an issue. And there was a lot of religion and prayer going around her, but she'd been brought up to respect that, but that she didn't really have to participate. As climate change starts having an impact on the economy of the farming ministry, the more cult-like aspects of this place begin to crank up until she realizes that she and her son are both in danger, and she flees and returns to the island. At the same time, Harry Richardson, whose family has always owned the neighboring property to the McGavins, returns to the island with the desire to sell his property because it has too many memories of his recently deceased wife. So both of them have some events in their recent past that they need to heal from. Both of them come together in the book. I absolutely did not want this to be a summer people and a year-round people kind of conflict, because to me that reflected binary thinking. And I think we've got too much of that going on at the moment. That's why we have all of these other points of view that include Mari's parents, her best friend. It includes, at one point, her son. It includes her old boyfriend. I wanted there to be that sense of the whole community really facing an issue that they had to be dealt with cooperatively by everybody who loves this place.
Okay. I like the community feel to that. That sounds like a good place to rest as well for a reader. Any other hopes for people as they read through this? The climate change aspect, is it a frequent thing that's being touched on through the book, or how is it kind of addressed within the story?
As a writer, I really felt like nobody wants to be hit over the head with the climate change thing. And I also, as I started to research climate fiction, I thought I have a little bit of a bone to pick with people who write the science fiction or the post-apocalyptic kinds of climate fiction, because it made me feel as though the implication was this is something that may happen later, but we don't have to think about it now. Yeah. I wanted to write a book that really demonstrated that this is happening now and that this is the best time to deal with it, but I didn't want to frighten people. So that was kind of my feeling with the whole climate change was brushstrokes, to make that really the kind of pale background palette on which the story was written. Okay. However, I also discovered in the course of my research that when climate fiction first became popular, the hope was that it would really motivate people to do something. And it's been demonstrated that that empathetic effect that readers get from reading a novel only lasts about a day and a half to 2 days. And I thought, okay, well, there's a window of opportunity. So that's why I wanted this information about Be the Butterfly in the book. It's right there so that if people are feeling like we do live on a beautiful planet and we should do a little more to protect it, what kinds of things can I do? And have that be really more of an immediate opportunity.
Okay. What has been some of the response from readers so far?
Uniformly positive, she says, touching wood.
Yeah.
It's in kind of in my conversations with people as I was putting this all together. And as I've been researching it, there's just not a lot of conversation about climate change, which just floors me. Again, I think people are busy, or they're in denial, or they're frightened, or they feel hopeless, or they don't want to be the one who brings it up because they think other people don't want to talk about it. And when I say, let's have this conversation, people are delighted to be able to talk about what's going on in their area, both the things that frighten them and the things that give them hope.
What do you do as an author to make both Mari and Harry relatable to the readers? What kind of things did you put into place?
I talked earlier about how writers, it's a very lonely job. I did show this manuscript in workshops and got some great feedback on those characters. Mari initially, from having been really brainwashed from being in this farming ministry that developed into a cult, and then discovering that she had made a huge mistake, she was kind of broken. And I got some great feedback from somebody saying, no, we want a reader we want a character who's got stronger than that. She needs to have had that ice water thrown in her face, and now she's ready for a comeback. And so that was a great breakthrough for her, to just give her some strength, make her kind of feisty, make her funny. And also, writers are always, when you write a book, the book writes you. You're always learning things about yourself. Mari has got a bit of a scratchy side to her. So her relationship with her best friend in particular, I hope readers find very relatable. And also her relationship with her mother. For Harry, now we've got some guy who's really, really sad. Well, how do I make that character relatable? And how I did that was to figure out what does Harry do with his life? What's his career? And what qualities does he bring to his career? What else about this man besides the fact that he's grieving? So I made him a high school history teacher. And I have actual little snippets in there about him relating to his students in the classroom, and some information about him, about just what a good teacher he was and his perspective on the world. And he brings that ability to relate to young people into his relationship with Mari's son. So I think that's what opened him up as a character and made him relatable.
Okay. What part of Mari would you find as something that draws you to her character? If she was somebody in real life next to you, what would you two have in common?
I think her commitment to doing what she thinks is right, even when she kind of gets her legs kicked out from under her. All of us, I think, I'm sort of extrapolating based on my own experience, but you think you know what you're doing, you think you've got a great idea, and then somebody comes and cuts you down, and you've got to build yourself back up again. And I think I would find that character in Mari, the way she manages to get back up and try again, highly relatable.
Okay. All right. Because I want the reader to also be able to identify with Mari and with Harry as well, right? So
yeah,
anything like that we can give us some kind of foundation for these characters, I think really helps.
Well, and people are very fascinated by the fact that Mari has escaped from a cult. There's been a surprising amount of interest in the cult thing, which I've really been thinking about, because I have not been a member of a cult. So I had to really look in my own experience to find something that would be similar, to bring that out in her. And I think the part that really resonated for me was that situation where there's something in your head that is saying, this isn't right, don't do this, you're stepping over the red flags, and you justify it. And for me in my life, it was only when everything blew up on me and I could look back and say, boy, there were a number of places where I saw the warning signs and I stepped over them. And I don't
Hmm.
think of myself as being that person. So to really look at that way in which people live their lives.
At what point in writing the book did the storyline about the cult become part of the story? Was that right from the beginning, or did it find its way
No,
during the process?
it was interesting. I had never heard of a farming ministry, but I kind of
Yeah.
wanted Mari off somewhere learning about farming, and I wanted her to come back to the island. So I was just poking around doing research, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And farming ministries have as their mission to provide food for those in need and also to provide skills and housing and food for people who are recovering from addiction or have recently been released from prison. This sounds like a great thing to me. I was really happy to discover this. And I'm taking this to the workshops, and people kept referring to it as a cult. And I kept saying, no, 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 it's a farming ministry. And then at
Hmm.
one point I thought, oh, I'm going to go with it. Because I wanted this business of her sort of stepping over those red flags. And I thought, what if it's both? What if it starts out as a farming ministry and then takes on this cult-like aspect?
It's interesting because when you were talking earlier about this being a community feel to the story and the island, and then referencing the fact that you brought the story to your writers' community to get feedback, you were kind of living the community in the process of writing a book about community.
Yep.
So I can tell community is really important to you.
Community is important to me. And of course, Mari was living in a certain type of community.
Right.
So it is very important to me. And I think, you read and experience in your own life that we are becoming less and less bound to one another. I read a book years ago by a woman named Marion Woodman who talked about sort of the breakdown of some of the rituals in our society, including things like going to church on Sundays and sitting down for family dinners.
Right.
And she said these kinds of abandonments of those places where we're coming together in a ritualistic fashion are going to come back and bite us. And I really feel like, sadly, she's no longer with us, but I really feel like she nailed it. And so I'm kind of trying to lean back into we need to be in relationship with each other more, and not just the people in our household or the people in our neighborhood, but across the planet.
Okay. I think that's a great foundation for a book as well, and for a movement. And I think that's going to come through for the readers as they read your book. I like this.
Well, thank you.
That's good. I got to ask for, first of all, I've got the website up while we're chatting. I have your site up. But the cover of the book is beautiful. Can you explain, like, where did this come from? How did you get this beautiful cover for your book? It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I love the story behind this. I did actually publish a book in 1989, and I was given no input for the cover. And lo, these many years later, I still don't like that cover. With this publisher, which is Sibylline Press, they said right off the bat they wanted us to submit ideas and pictures of what we wanted on the cover. And I knew exactly what I wanted. It was a photograph that was taken by somebody I know on this island in Maine. And it's taken through the salt-pitted windscreen of a lobster boat. And there's an orange and yellow lobster buoy on the bow of the boat and this beautiful ray of sunshine coming down from the sky. Well, we couldn't get a resolution image for that. So we looked around, and the graphic designer at Sibylline sent me 5 or 6 covers, and they were all really flat and boring. And I thought, oh dear. And they said, don't worry, we'll get this right. So I started just flipping through, looking at images on the internet and found this artist. His name is William Hallett, and he is, in fact, a Maine artist. I fell instantly in love with his painting. I emailed him and said, would you be open to the idea of letting us use one of your paintings on the cover of my book? Heard back from him within a matter of hours saying yes, put him in touch with my publisher.
Wow.
And by 5 o'clock that afternoon, I had 5 covers to choose from using his paintings.
Wow.
So he's been a wonder to work with. I have friends who are very talented who've made me a couple of articles of clothing that are based on or matched the cover. So, and he's been absolutely fine with that. So it's been really fun.
Wow. I'm glad that you held out for the vision you had in your mind for this book and what it looks like. Because we always say, don't judge a book by its cover, but technically that's exactly what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
Look at a book and go, this really draws me in. I want to know more about this book.
Well, and the cover won a gold medal from the American Fiction Awards for the best cover on adult fiction. And so I'm so pleased to have been able to help the artist achieve that.
Another piece of community.
Another
for
piece
you.
of community.
Another chunk of community. I see how this is all fitting together. I like
Well,
it.
and when he saw a picture of me wearing the jacket that my friend had designed, he said, I'm really kind of embarrassed to ask you this, but my wife wants one. And I said, I can't do that. However, I've made these little zippered pouches that use the cover art. So I sent her one of those. So community.
There you go. Kate, this is great. I love how you're approaching this and how you're creating this community around your book as well. What else are you doing to get out there and beyond being on podcasts? What else are you doing to get out there and share more about the book and about everything to do with butterflies as well?
And I'm on about a 6-month tour here. So started off in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and did some events in the Boston area. And then I was out in Utah, again, where I had lived for almost 30 years. I did an event there at the King's English Bookshop, which was right around the corner from me. It was my bookstore. That was wonderful. And then we did a really fun one, which was my writing group from Utah. We all got together at the Park City Library to talk about what it was that had made our group work. We've been together for, I think it's like 27 years now. There are 7 of us. We've now got 16 books published, 3 master's degrees and 2 PhDs in the time since we first got together. So that's been fun. Part of what I do, I'm going to be on the Cape later this month, and then I'll be in Maine in August, is to invite other climate writers or climate activists to join me in my events, because I view my book as something, again, I hope readers enjoy it. It does seem to be very popular as a summer read, which is great. And I want others who are working in this space to help save the climate to have the opportunity to get out there and answer questions and address concerns that people may have.
Wow. Have you heard anything from anybody directly related to the island or ties to the island about the book itself?
Yes. Anybody who's listening who knows what the dynamics of a small community are, I was very concerned about backlash or negative comments from the island. I have a sister who owns a home on the island, and so I sent her the manuscript. I said, see if there's anything that's going to piss anyone off. I also have other friends on the island. I asked them the same thing, and I've had really very positive feedback. It's been wonderful. And I'm going to be there on the 6th, 7th. Well, there's 2 islands side by side. I'm going to be on both of them. It may still happen. And people may still say there's no such thing as a yellow and orange lobster buoy or something like that, you know?
Right. Yeah. But it's nice. It's nice to bring attention to that, and I love not only the islands, but also climate change and community. You're using this book as a platform to really address many, many things for the readers and for the community as well.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I want to go to the island just to grab a copy of the book. I'd love your book to be on sale on the island. That would be great, right? There you go. Of course it is. Yeah.
Which isn't actually all that easy considering how small these islands are. But, you know, and I really want people to understand that, yes, this is a book that includes climate fiction. And yes, I do want this to be a platform for this conversation. But first and foremost, I wanted to write a book that was an enjoyable experience for readers.
Good.
And it seems from what's been happening that I did accomplish that. So, yay.
Excellent. I think people in general remember more from stories that they resonate with, that are community-based. Like you're checking all the boxes for me as a reader. So more than a textbook, more than an article, right? You talk about how long people retain information. I think a great story is going to stick with somebody for a long term. So I love the fact that you've framed all of this in a great story for us as readers.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, so Kate, where do you want to send people to know more about you, where you're going to be? There's links to your book. You can see the cover of the book. It's gorgeous. Where do you want to send everybody, Kate, so they can follow up with you?
Definitely my website. And you can contact me. There's a contact page on the website. So they can definitely get in touch with me there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. It's kate.woodworth.92. And then, of course, again, my publisher, Sibylline Press, they has information on me and my book, as well as my sisters, because we're all women who publish through Sibylline Press.
Well, there you go. We'll have to get your sister on the podcast as well. That'd be fun.
Yep.
Excellent. Kate, thank you so much for doing this. This is great. No, it's great. One last question for you, Kate. For us today, this week, what's one thing on top of buying a copy of the book and buying an extra copy and sending it to our friends? One thing we can do this week to be climate thinking forward and doing something we can do to save the climate, save our environment. What's one little action item we can do as listeners? What do you encourage us to try this week?
If you are not already recycling your food scraps, do some research and figure out the best way for you to do it.
Okay. There you go. There'll be people that can help you, and your municipality, your city, your state, there'll be somewhere where you can go and do your research and find that. So
there's
that's
a lot
your homework,
of
everybody.
out there.
Everyone's got homework. You got to buy the book, and you got to do your best this week to do something different than you've never done before to think about our planet.
Keep the conversation going.
There you go. You're going to keep writing, Kate. Are you got more books in the works? What do you got?
Absolutely. I just found out a few days ago that my first book, Racing into the Dark, which again I mentioned was published in 1989, it will be reissued in the spring of 2026. That is actually not a climate fiction book. So I really want to get back to work on another climate-related book that I've been thinking about for a number of years.
Good. Excellent. We'll come back and get us up to date on what's happening in the future as well.
I would love to. Thank you.
Awesome, Kate. Thank you so much, everyone. All the information for Kate, her website, everything, all that we talked about, links are in the show notes. As you listen to this, I know you're thinking of somebody, on top of you buying a book, you know somebody else who's going to love this. So buy two. And when you do, leave a great review for Kate so she can see your words back and what you thought of this book. It really means a lot to our authors. As a reader, please do that. I know Kate would love to hear your thoughts. Kate, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. we have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.